Welcome to the ILL-INI segment of the Coach Steve Show, where we talk about everything in Illinois, University of Illinois athletics. We are going to discuss the football game they just had versus Penn State in a tough loss. They lose to Penn State 21-7. It was a grind it out, punch it out battle, and we're going to discuss the positives that came from this game. I'd like to see Illinois get the win, but there are some positives that you could take away from this. So like and subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel and find the ILL-INI segment and get everything about Illinois athletics. Follow on Apple and iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. It is everywhere. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok. All that stuff is in the description below. So Illinois traveled to Penn State. It was their whiteout game. So it was a loud, hostile environment. The last time Illinois traveled to Penn State, they got the 9 overtime upset. And at one point, it kind of looked like we could get to that point when it was tied for a while. And it was 14-7. And if Illinois come down and score, it was looking like that. But Penn State grinded it out, made some plays when they need to, and got the win 21-7. The overall look of the game was I didn't like the outcome. I wanted Illinois to win, obviously. But Penn State's that team that you know is always going to be good. They're always going to play you tough. And especially at their place in the whiteout, like that's a tough place to play. I would say that if you wanted to look at it as a college football fan, this is exactly what you wanted. And like I said, a person on our coaching staff played college football at Penn State, and we were talking throughout the week, what do you think the game's going to look like? And I said this, Illinois cannot turn the ball over, and Illinois is going to have to have long sustaining drives, and the defense will be fine, but they're going to give up big plays. They're going to bend, don't break. And so I wasn't 100% worried about the defense as long as they could slow down their tight end, as long as they could just make Penn State go on long drives and the big plays not turn into touchdowns. If they did that, they were going to be fine. It was just the Illinois offense could not turn the ball over, and the Illinois offense had to have long sustaining drives, and they had to protect the quarterback, right? And that's what it was. Illinois got the ball first and came down and scored right away. Scored in a few plays. Penn State comes out, scores in a few plays, and then it just becomes a back and forth game of, they get a couple good plays, they got a punt, couple good plays, got a punt. And so I said that Illinois had fumbled the ball and thrown an interception. The interception came very, very at the final seconds of the game, final minutes of the game. Luke Altmaier threw a really bad pass. Didn't see the linebacker dropping back when they were running their stick routes, their hitches route. Threw the ball out, they had to fumble. Other than the game, Penn State didn't have one turnover, so Illinois' defense did not force a turnover. Illinois had a lot of penalties and crucial moments, whether it was false starting, pass interference, whatever it was. 9 penalties for 60 yards. Penn State had 6 penalties for 63 yards. And then Illinois also, I said they had to be able to run the football. I didn't think they were going to survive on everything on passing the ball. Illinois they averaged 1.1 yards per rush. They rushed the ball 32 times, but only averaging 1 yard is not exactly what Coach Bielema and company were expecting. Penn State averaged 5.6 yards per rush. Penn State has one of the best 2 combinations of the running back probably in the country when you look at statistics. They had 2 new coordinators. Their offense coordinator was at Kansas, and then Coach Allen was the head coach at Indiana for a while. He's their defensive coordinator, and so they have really 2 good new coordinators, and they were able to make adjustments. Total yardage, Penn State had 376. Illinois had 219. Illinois passed the ball more, 185 yards versus 135. But the rushing, Illinois only had 34 compared to 241, which is a lot. And the reason why, I kind of don't like that stat that says Illinois only has 34 total yards of rushing. I understand why. Luke Altmaier did get sacked quite a few times and took some big sacks, so it's minus 28 yards for him. Josh McCray only had -2. Lowry with 1 carry had 0. Uh, Caden had 13 carries for 64 yards. When you look at Penn State, their combination, right? They had Allen, 18 carries, 102 yards. Singleton, 16 carries, 94 yards. So they were able to rush the ball, get the running backs going. They held the passing in somewhat control. When you hold their tight end down to what he usually gets is great. Heron Wallace the third had 50 yards. Tyler Warren 34. Singleton, the running back, had 25. So that's the stats part. So let's look at the overall game. This is exactly like I said earlier. As a fan, you want this. You want a back and forth, tough, hard-nosed game. And that's exactly what this was. And I told our coach that I coach with that I said, as long as it's that game, I want Illinois to win. He wants Penn State to win. But I said, whatever the outcome was, as long as it's a physical game, big hits, big time plays, and it's a close game, that's going to be a fun game to watch. And some thought it was boring because it's 21-7. We're so used to accustomed to, oh, it's got to be 30 something to 20 or whatever. I like this kind of game. Penn State just has some of the experience, and they had some transfers coming, and they recruited well. And it was at home. If this was at Champaign and Illinois played this way, might be a little different scenario. I'm not taking anything away from Penn State. Penn State's now 4-0 overall, 1-0 in conference. They were number 9 in the nation. They are obviously going to get moved up in the rankings. Illinois dropped in the rankings. Penn State is now number 7. They jumped up 2. Illinois went from 19 down to 24, which we're still ranked in the top 25, and they're heading into their bye week, which is perfect time to get your bye week after a tough game like this. The positives take from this game is, I know the defense gave up the yards, but when you give up the yards, one of those was a pick, I believe a pick 6 or pretty close to a pick 6. So the defense giving up, essentially 14 points and the yards, that's a good game for the defense. They gave up some big plays, obviously, but it didn't always lead to points. And so it's a bend, don't break defense. We're not going to hold teams to 100 some yards or whatever it was like we did back in the day a couple of years ago. The defense did what they needed to do. The only thing with the defense is they had a real hard time stopping the run consistently, right? I gave you the stats of the run game. They just had a hard time because one of the running backs for Penn State is a big guy that's able to run downhill physical, and the other guy is shifty and can make these cuts, and they kept rotating them, and they had a good game plan by rotating them. But I do think at one point Penn State, I wouldn't say they were worried, but they were very frustrated saying, hey, what is going on? We're the number 9 team in the nation. People are picking us to almost win the Big Ten or compete with Ohio State to win the Big Ten, and we're being picked to go to the playoffs. And you got Illinois coming in here competing and battling with us, right? And Coach Bielema said that at his press conference, saying that this is a very good football team. We know we're a good football team, but we can't afford to continue to do the things that led to this. And what led to this was defense not being able to stop the run consistently, how they were able to run the ball up the middle and do all those different things. It's not stopping them on third down. The third down efficiency, 6 of 11 for Penn State and 4 of 13 for Illinois. So 6 of 11 does sound kind of good, but you're not able to stop them consistently on third down or get that number less. And just stopping the run, 240 yards rushing. You're not going to win a lot of games doing that. And on the offensive side, you had 26 minutes for Illinois, who had the ball. Penn State had it for 33. So Illinois' defense was out there for a long time, the long sustained drives. And stopping them and not letting them get first down. Penn State had 24 first downs compared to Illinois' 17. So stopping them on third down and stopping them from getting big plays on first down to get another first down, right? Or if it's a second down, to stop them there. They stopped them on 1 4th down, so they were 0 for 1. Illinois was 1 for 2. And as the game started to go on, Penn State started to do a lot of stunting up front. They got in cover 0 and blitzed and did those different types of things that they normally used to not do when they had their old coordinators. Now you got Coach Allen, who's able to make adjustments, who's been a head college football coach, understands everything. The pass protection started to break down. They did not fall for any of Luke Altmaier's pump fakes to run around them. They were very disciplined there. They had a couple drop passes. And so those type of things you just can't have. Luke Altmaier was 185 yards passing, had 1 touchdown and the 1 interception. Sakari Franklin, 4 catches, 49 yards. BD, 2 catches, 39 yards. McCray had 38. Pat Bryant had 33. They made the catches in big time moments when they needed to, but give credit to Penn State. They played really good defense, but it was just not being able to get the run game going consistently for Illinois. And the pass protection started to break down a little bit. I thought Luke Altmaier started to get a little bit of happy feet, and just some of those things started to pile up. And that's what Coach Beelan kind of alluded to, was we can't continue to do those things in order to win big time games like this. This loss does not define their season. This loss does not put them in a bad spot, because Penn State is a good team. And you're looking at the rest of Illinois' schedule. They got Purdue, Michigan, and Oregon. Purdue, I think they're going to come in and beat, because Purdue is struggling. Michigan, if they play the way they did against Penn State, they could pull out that win. Oregon, at Oregon, is going to be really tough. I think they can get Minnesota, Michigan State, Rutgers, and Northwestern. So there's a lot of positives that you can take away from this. They played just as tough as they did against Nebraska. Penn State is just better than Nebraska. Penn State is poised to compete with Ohio State for that Big Ten and the playoff run. And I think if Illinois can just fix the pass protection stuff, which Coach Beeman addressed to, they got to be able to figure out the stunts. They got to be able to figure out how to sustain blocks when they're doing the run game. If they can get the run game going, I think if Illinois had the run game going and they then give up the sacks to Luke Altmaier, I think that Illinois would have been in a much better position to win that game. They might have won that game, because if you don't throw the interception, you don't fumble the ball, you're able to do those things, it could be flip-flop. They could have won 21-14, something like that, right? But you have to be happy with the effort they gave. They never really panicked. I know people are blaming Coach Lunny Jr. They're saying that this was like it was last year and the year before, where his scripts were amazing. They come out and have an amazing script in the very beginning. They come down and score. And then the rest of the game, it just can never get the script going, or when they go off script, they couldn't really move the ball. I think it just came down to Penn State playing very good coverage on the receivers downfield, and just the fact that their defensive line, they were able to rotate their defensive line a lot. I don't think people realize that, how often they are rotating their defensive line for Penn State to keep them fresh and healthy, and going after Illinois' offensive line, and just didn't pass protect the way they were pass protecting. And Coach Beelan kind of alluded to, like, this is the perfect time to have your break, your bye week, because you got to get your legs back underneath of you to play a tough game versus Kansas. You beat Central Michigan like you're supposed to, and then you have a very, very tough game in a hostile environment at Nebraska. And so had to take care of business there in overtime. So that's more pressure put on your body. And then having to travel all the way to Penn State and play in that environment. I think if Nebraska was at home, it might be a little different. Or if Penn State was at home, it'd be a little different. But they have the bye week to get their legs back underneath of them. But I do think they have to go back in and say, what do we have to adjust on offense to get our 2 big-time receivers open? And what do we have to do to get this run game going better? And do we have to get heavier sets to run the ball? Do we have to put more tight ends to run the football? Do we have to do more jet sweeps to run the football? Those type of things. And then just kind of tweak your pass protection sets. Not saying it was bad, but now that you've seen this cover zero and these different stunts that Penn State was able to do, other teams are going to see that on film. Purdue's going to look at that. Coach Walters, who, even though Purdue is struggling, he's a great defensive mind. He's going to watch that and say, okay, this is how Illinois struggled against this. I'm going to try to mimic, because it is a copycat league. They're going to try to mimic that so they can put pressure on Illinois and do those type of things. So ultimately, they just got to figure out how to get those 2 playmakers the ball more, and they got to figure out the run game. Defense, I think, just has to keep doing its thing. I think they're fine, but they also didn't force any turnovers. Penn State was very disciplined in that area. They didn't turn the ball over, didn't throw interceptions, anything like that. So defense, just keep doing what you're doing. People are freaking out about Illinois. Don't freak out. Do not freak out. They are going to be just fine. Watching how the other Big Ten teams are playing on their schedule, at the way Illinois played against Nebraska, I think Illinois has a great football team, and they could go on and win a lot of more games this year. And I mean, I don't know if they'll make the playoff, but if they continue to do what they're doing, they could make a case to try to get to that one of those spots. If not, they're going to play in a huge big-time bowl game, which is great for them, great for recruiting. And I think they've proven that they can go toe-to-toe with a top 10 team and say, hey, we're here, and we're going to take you to the very end. Like, you have to do everything you can perfectly to win this game. And that's what they forced Penn State to do. You had to play perfect run defense, and you had to play perfectly to get the quarterback under pressure. And our defense made them like, okay, you can run the ball, but the moments we do decide, like, we are able to make those plays to stop you on a second and long run, now you're in a passing situation, and we can get pressure on you, and we can do these things. It's going to take you to play perfectly, and it's going to take you all you've got to beat us, right? And I think that's what Illinois showed. So it's still okay. I would have loved Illinois to get that upset. I think the whole college football world would have erupted, and Illinois would definitely be in a perfect position to be in that playoff picture. It's still there, but the things that Coach Bielema said, these are all everything I talked about that they need to fix. They're all fixable things that can happen in practice, happen in the film room. They are able to get fixed. And their schedule, like I said, to go over it one more time, they're set up perfectly. Purdue, they can beat. I think they can beat Michigan, to be honest with you. I really do. Oregon's a toss-up because it's at Oregon. If it was at Illinois, it'd be a little different. But at Oregon, that's a really tough place to play. But the positive thing here is to be in a hostile environment at Nebraska, to be in a hostile environment at Penn State, to go to Oregon, that's going to be a hostile environment. You just got to wait. We got to wait and see how they're playing. If they beat Purdue and beat Michigan, and they're able to do it, not with ease, but to do the things that they have been doing, that will be a huge time game. I do think they could beat Minnesota. I do think they could beat Michigan State, and I really think they can beat Rutgers. And Northwestern is not bad right now. They're 2-2, but I think they can get that too, right? And so if you're looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more wins that they can get, now you're looking at a 10-2 team, right, in the Big Ten, and go from there. And if they could somehow pull up the upset against Oregon because of the way they're playing, if they can start to open up the offense a little bit and, really decide like, okay, we got to run the offense through the 2 receivers to open up the run a little more, that's what you got to do, right? Play action RPO stuff. They're really good on the slants and really I don't know. Leave a comment down below, like which would be more important right now. I think they can get the ball to the 2 receivers. I think they have to focus on that, but they cannot win games by only having a 50, 60-yard rusher. I think they need to have a 70, 80-yard rusher and then another guy with 20. So it's just kind of pick your poison of which one you want to fix. I think they can, and they have the perfect time to do it in the bye week to reevaluate all the film you've had in the last 5 weeks. And think about it, like Penn State's already had a bye week. Illinois played 5 straight games, 3 ranked teams. I know Kansas kind of fallen off. Ranked team against Kansas, ranked team against Nebraska, ranked team against Penn State. So it's a lot on your legs and your body. So I think they can fix those things. They fix those things, we'll be okay. And we're okay. We're okay. Coach Bielema and staff will figure it out. They got a great coaching staff. The players, I know, are pissed off from the loss, and they're going to be able to figure it out. So they fix those type of things. I know Luke Altmaier threw his first interception. He finally got that out of the way, right? Like, no more pressure if you haven't thrown an interception yet. A lot of quarterbacks in the league in college football have already thrown a pick, so now you can join them. Now that's off your back, and it'll be just fine. So leave a comment section down below. What do you think about this Illinois team? Do you think they're going to be okay? There is no – I don't think we should even be looking at the panic button at all. And I think they have a good chance after the bye week to get Purdue. So they get a week off. So we'll hop back on if there's any Illinois news. We'll try to, hop back on next week for a preview versus Purdue when they play them on October 12th at home. And they look to get their revenge versus Coach Walters and Purdue from last year when they went to Penn State and suffered the loss versus Penn State or Purdue, and slowly, secretly has become a rival game. So leave a comment in the comment section down below what you think about Illinois. Follow on X, Instagram, and TikTok. It's in the description below. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Coach Steve Show YouTube channel and find the ILLINI segment. Follow right on Apple and iTunes and Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Check out all the affiliates in the description below. Thanks, anybody, for watching and or listening. This is Coach Steve, and we'll see you guys.